Hi, Ricky Ram here. That's a moniker given to me by Peter Pringle, and I kind of like it, so I'm sticking with it. As a relatively new owner of this wonderful Haken Continuum, I thought I'd start putting together a series of videos on programming the EaganMatrix synthesizer front end to the thing, being an even more of a newcomer to that, and I don't mean to present myself as an expert here. This thing takes years to learn, not to mention a great knowledge of acoustics, sound design, and many different kinds of computer and synthesizer techniques. But for anybody who's going to play the continuum, I feel that some knowledge of the EaganMatrix is very useful. I don't care what level you're at. You might consider yourself someone who has no interest in programming the thing, just want to live with the factory presets and get along with your business of making music. That's fine. But I've found and convinced that no matter what level you are, a certain basic knowledge of the EaganMatrix can help you get a lot more out of the machine, can help you find much greater sonic potential in some of the factory presets that are there. And so hopefully some of the things I'll discuss here can be useful and applied to patches that you already have, and hopefully allow you to extract even greater sonic potential and use from the sounds that you're using now. So let's begin. In front of us we have the EaganMatrix, and let's pull up an empty matrix. Anything in red in the matrix is something that you can change in one way or another. So let's go to this preset options that everybody knows and loves, and let's find our empty patch. We'll bring that up, and you should see the empty matrix displayed in front of you. Now, if you don't see that, it might be because you didn't have the full screen displayed, and this little triangle here will allow you to see the matrix. Now, when I first brought this up, I was delighted and totally confused in what's going on here. I should say that the starting point for any of this stuff should be the manual set that comes with the firmware distribution, and also a number of really excellent videos that Ed Egan has created online that certainly will be a lot more useful to some of you than mine, but I'm coming at it from a different angle, from somebody that knows nothing trying to build up, as opposed to someone that knows pretty much everything trying to go downwards. So in this matrix, as we've been taught from the manual, we have inputs on the left side that can be routed to outputs on the top through matrix intersections. Now, when I first looked at this and read the manual, it wasn't really intuitive to me. What's inputs and outputs? To me, both these things can be inputs and outputs depending upon how you look at it. But once you start fooling around a bit, you'll get the hang of it. It's really how you control these modules at the top that are at the basis of pretty much everything you do. We're not going to be concerned with too much in this video. All these styles that can do different things and be programmed in different ways by the matrix, we won't worry about them right now. We're just going to worry about simple inputs to the matrix. Now, of course, the the two main things that you'll want to know about up front are the main outputs, SL and SR, because almost everything we do is going to route to them. That will go, obviously, to your amp and speakers. Then we have some convolution and effects settings. There's secondary outputs and the modules that make sound, some of which can be changed to do delays, and of course shape generators at the end here that can be set to create repeating patterns and other things that are very useful in creating dynamic sounds. Well, we're going to start out, however, also if you notice, if you put your little cursor over one of the little dots, you'll get a nice help tooltip, which is extremely useful, so you don't have to constantly go back to manuals. We're going to start by not even worrying about the fingerboard, because you don't need that to get sound out of the matrix. These modules are active and ready to create sound the minute you route something to them. But what we'll start with, just looking at noise. So the EaganMatrix lets you apply white noise in various ways and filtered noise. So what we're going to do is we're going to type a number in here, just a constant that will map to an amplitude value that's going to send a certain percentage of our noise to the outputs. Now, something to be aware of, and especially if you're wearing headphones, is if I type the wrong number in here, or a number that's too big, I could create a very large sonic explosion, and I've done it on numerous occasions. It's easy to type a wrong thing into the matrix, so you got to be a little careful. And one of the ways that you can guard against these major explosions is to start by typing small numbers into the matrix. And so that's what we'll do to start off here. We'll look at the intersection between where the noise routes to the main outs, right here and here, and we'll type a little small number in there, 0.05. That'll be enough to generate some noise. Okay, let's put that on both the left and the right outputs. As you can see, I generated some noise. If I make that a smaller number, I will make the sound softer, obviously. And if I make it a bigger number, the sound will get louder. So let's, we can hit the delete key to get rid of a number. Okay. If there's nothing in an intersection, it basically defaults to a value of 0, which will be helpful to know as we type other things in a bit. So enough with noise for now, and noise can be extremely important to create a lot of sounds. Let's go and look at the oscillators. There are 5 of them. In fact, each one of these oscillators, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, can either be a filter of some sort or an oscillator of some sort. Again, if it's red, I can change things. We're only going to worry about that being an oscillator to start off. So in this oscillator, the first thing that I'm going to worry about is setting a frequency up. Frequencies are set in kilohertz, so if I set this to a value of 0.11, that'll be equivalent to 110 hertz. Okay. Nothing's coming out because I haven't routed anything to the outputs. So what I want to do now is I'll look and see what module number, and I'm on oscillator 1 here. I'll go find where oscillator 1 gets routed over here, oscillator or filter, but I'm an oscillator now. And there's oscillator 1. So I'm going to route that to the outputs. I'll use another small number like 0.05. It's enough to hear a low tone of 110 hertz. Okay. Now, I'm only using constants here. I'm not pressing the fingerboard, but there's not much I can do except turn this note on and turn it off. Now, if I go to the frequency column, I'll delete that. It goes away because it defaults to a value of 0 hertz, which I wouldn't expect it's going to make a sound. So now what I can do is play around with these direct values. Now anything I put in this direct column, be it an addition, a subtraction, or a multiplier, that's going to be applied directly to the module that it's associated with. As an addition, if I type something in there right now, that's in effect going to be setting that frequency to a value. So in that case, addition really also equates in this case to setting. Now I can do a number of things with values applied in these direct rows. If I go back and set 110, now listen to what happens when I do this, by the way. I'll set 0.1, 1. The tone changes a little bit as I go from 0.1 to 0.1, 1. And the reason why is the split second that you type something into the matrix, I don't know what the real timing is, but it seems instantaneous from the human point of view. So the split second you type something in there, it takes effect, which is nice because it means you can test things out in real time. So let's type in 0.11. Now one way, I want to make that go an octave higher. We can do that in a number of different ways here. First way I can do is simply multiply that times 2, which will give me an octave higher. If you notice when I type a whole number in, it's a larger number, a fractional number is smaller. So let's get rid of that. Another way to do it is to just add the same thing to itself, and that should make it go up an octave as well. Sure, that works fine. Okay, let's get rid of those. Okay, let's type in a value, say, of 440 hertz, and we'll get rid of our constant outputs. Okay, so this direct column can be used in many ways, and you'll see it used all the time in the presets that come with the continuum. Another thing I should mention is that, let's pull this volume down. When I have a value here, let's say I type in a pretty loud value. Let's put in something like 0.8. So let's say I want to make that softer. Another way to do it would be to put a multiplier down here, say 0.5. And that is another way to make a sound softer instead of using the gain volume. Okay, we'll turn that off. Of course, if I'm multiplying 0, which is what's in there now, by anything, it's still going to be 0, so no sound is going to come out right now. One of the things you can do, sometimes I create patches that are basically too loud, and instead of just diddling with the gain here and there, one way to make the sound be a volume that I'm more concerned with this is to just use a volume multiplier. You might bring up, in fact, a factory patch, and it's just too loud, and you want to set it to some initial gain offset. So you can use a multiplier to do that, and then use your gain later on to offset as well. All right, so enough of that. Let's get rid of these, and what we'll do now is we'll put in a value here. Instead of routing a constant, I'm going to route one of the 4 predefined formulas, W, X, Y, and Z. I'm going to use W here. What W does is it simply just gates a note on. So as long as, and it gates it on to its full volume. I can press harder, I can press softer, it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same volume. When I lift my finger up, the note will go away. So it just gates a value to full unity value. All right. not much use to me. Also, you'll notice, no matter where I press the keyboard, I get the same note. Because right now, I have a fixed frequency. So no matter what I do or where I press, I'm going to get the same 440 hertz out of the fingerboard. So instead of the W, which is just a gate on and off, let's use the predefined formula Z. Now Z is a much different animal. That will respond to finger pressure. So as I press the fingerboard, the lighter I press, the lighter the sound. As I press deeper into the fingerboard, the sound will get louder, and of course as I lift up, it gets softer. And this is one of the great features of the fingerboard, allowing you to create great expression through these subtle crescendos and diminuendos, basically due to this Z formula. So now I can be expressive on my one note, but again, no matter where I press on the fingerboard, I still get that one note. So let's use the third predefined formula, X. We'll stick that on the direct input where I have my frequency. So instead of a value, I'm going to type X there. And what this does is make the value track the fingerboard's pitch content. So it will basically map to the note template on the fingerboard if you have it. If not, it'll map to notes that you'll just have to know without the template. But obviously now that allows me to play this sine wave. Basically, it's a sine wave because the S setting that sets its waveform is set to 0, which makes it a sine wave. So now I can play a sine wave with great expression, and also use that wonderful continuum vibrato. Okay, that's pretty simple, about as simple as it gets. In fact, let's bring up the factory predefined preset sine wave, and whoa, lo and behold, you'll see that's exactly what we just created. So pretty much the simplest of factory presets is this sine wave. Let's take that and do a bit more with it. Okay, as we said, this S column here can be used to set a waveform where 0 is a sine wave and 1 goes more to a pulse wave. We can go and set a constant there if we like. So let's say here's what it sounds like when it's 0, our sine wave. Let's stick a 0.2 in there. Starting to get a little more triangle-like, a little more buzzy. If I go to 0.4, we'll get even more buzzy. Starting to approach a sawtooth wave, all the way up to like 0.8, where it says it's a true sawtooth. Okay, all well and good, but I don't want to have to be typing in numbers all the time to change waveforms. So let's be a little more subtle and use our Y, predefined Y formula, the remaining formula. What we'll do is we'll use Y as a multiplier. So we'll stick Y here to try and change the waveform. Now what Y does is it starts at the front from 0 and goes to 1 at the back. So basically I can take my waveform through its full set of values. Unfortunately, if I press something now, I still just get a sine tone. Why? because the rest of the values in this matrix column are set to 0. So no matter what y is, it's going to be multiplied by 0, still giving me 0, which is the sine tone. What I can do, however, is instead of a blank there, let me stick a 1 right there. What's this going to do? This is going to set the S value to its max value of 1. And the y value is going to be multiplied by that. So as y is up front, it's going to be more the 0 times 1 sine wave. But as I move my finger to the back now, basically y is the value that's going to be assigned now. There we go. Quite nice. So now I can actually play, and as I move from front to back, my waveform will change. Almost sounds like I'm opening up a filter, but it's just changing the waveform based on the value of y. Great. However, there's still one more column left on the oscillator, and that's this little triangle that you can use to modulate that oscillator. In fact, what I can do is I can assign a W there to use all 4 of my formulas, because W is basically going to trigger to full unity. So that'll pretty much do the same thing as I had. All right. Now, to end up this session, what we're going to do is we're going to take my little dynamic oscillator that I have created here, and I'm going to use that sound to modulate the second oscillator. Okay, how do we do that? What I'll first do is in the frequency of the second oscillator, I'll put an X, because I want that oscillator to track on X pitch to the fingerboard. And now, instead of routing oscillator 1 to output, I'm going to remove these Z's, because oscillator 1 now I want to route to the input of my second oscillator. So I'll route the whole unity, the whole total volume of that sound to the oscillator. And now instead of routing oscillator 1 to outputs, it's really the second oscillator sound that I want to route to the output. So here down in oscillator 2, I'll control that with Z now, and I'll route that out. And so now the sound that will come out is my oscillator, which is being controlled, modulated by that first one. Almost sounds like some Asian instrument. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can do one more thing. Right now, I'm routing the full value of oscillator 1, that unity value, to the modulation input of oscillator 2. What I can also do is control that by Y. So now, instead of the full volume going out as the finger goes from the front to the back, I'm going to increase the value of oscillator 1 going into oscillator 2. And you can hear that. Up front, it's more sine-like, because Y is pretty much 0. But as I go back, I'm modulating. Now this is kind of cool. Actually, it almost sounds like a trombone down low near the front. In the middle, it almost sounds like a trumpet up high. Kind of cool. It's a sound that I might actually be able to use in various ways, and you could even play on the bottom here and up top to have two different sounds come out based on where your Y position is. Quite a useful sound, and as Ed has brought up in some of his videos, you can see here that you don't have to type very much into the matrix to get some pretty sophisticated and complex sounds out. So I'll leave here. Maybe what we want to do is, since this sound actually could be useful, let's go and save it to some name. I hear a bad sign. All right. So I can bring it up later and maybe diddle even more with it. So there you go. Intro to the matrix, just using constants and the 4 predefined formulas. About as simple programming as you can get, but still, as you can see, you can get some pretty nice things just with some very simple programming techniques. Okay, I think that does it for this time. Next time we'll start looking into some formulas, and especially some of these, how to create some barrels that we can apply to some of the preset patches to create even more complex and sonic potential from them. So that does it. Till the next time.